ROI usually means return on investment. And the people who are most concerned with that, Hirsch, are what I label the number 8 buyers. These are people who have to do a lot of research, ask deep penetrating questions, need scientific evidence, and they base their decisions on value, hence return on investment. However, you and I have come up with a different twist about what ROI means, and it is
return of impact.
ooh,
So if you think about the kinds of clients we work with, who quite often do have that 8 persona that goes through the list of things that Nancy was talking about, but they also want to have an impact, and they want the impact that they have to be measurable, right?
yeah, be measurable. Let's first talk a bit more about impact because obviously, return on investment, there is an impact. It's a financial impact. Would you
Yeah.
agree? But we're talking about an impact that really has to do with transformation and changing people's lives. It's a different form of impact. And to me, while money can come and go,
Yeah.
you pay me for service, I spend that money quickly, but what you gain from my service, Hirsch, could last a lifetime. In fact, that's what many of my clients tell me, that by understanding personality style, it's saved marriages, it's restored relationships between adult children and their parents, it's made for easier conversations and being able to serve people in the way that feels authentic and valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and that is a really key point. Serving people in a way that's authentic and valuable. In essence, that is the definition of return of impact. And and I think that it speaks to a larger issue. There's a sense of revenue being in some cases, the only arbiter or barometer of success. And we wonder sometimes if, even in the messaging piece, are you really just looking for a revenue return, or do you really judge yourself? Is maybe the question I want to ask, based on revenue. Like, what role does revenue play in your evaluation of yourself?
That's a deep question because many people, and I would argue that maybe men more than women, base their self worth on their ability to generate income. Now, the reason I said more men than women is because as a woman, I've been socialized to believe that my value rests in relationships. Hence, for me, it's about developing that one-to-one familial relationship. And I feel judged if my relationship didn't work out. But with a man, it's about his ability to make and earn a living to support not only himself, but usually a family.
Yeah, very well said. And I think that, you know, I'm not a social psychologist. I don't really specialize in mindset, what we call, mindset, but I do have a feel for the kinds of clients that I've worked with over the last, 25 years. And it seems that for whatever reason, I attract people who either, as we've talked about, I quite often work with female entrepreneurs for this very reason, but I also work with men, and it just seems that those clients are looking for more something along the lines of a return of impact.
Yes.
I had a really interesting call just now with a prospective client who made very clear to me that, his hope is to share knowledge and have an impact with the people that he's reaching. But he doesn't want to frame it like, oh, I'm a philanthropist, or I think a lot of us are. A philanthropist is someone who actually is in the business uh, of using their influence, using their resources to structure an impact, to actually structure an impact. Now, yeah, they want to have a return of impact, but they're in almost in the engagement of doing good. We're talking more about the good that you can do with the business that you have, with the expertise that you have, and getting a return that way. So it's a return on all of the education that you've amassed, all of the
Mhm.
skills that you've fine-tuned and honed, all of the strategies that you've implemented, and the units of your product sold, all of those things. But ultimately, maybe that impact that you want to have, maybe the ROI that we talk about, Nancy, is something that comes a little bit later in your career, a little bit further down the line. I don't see
Yeah.
a 25 or 30-year-old person in the marketplace being ready for a return of impact. They might go into the nonprofit sector. That's not what we're talking about.
Interesting that you should comment about the age of the person, because I used to teach at Springfield College in Springfield, Mass, and it had a humanitarian humanism. I don't even remember the exact name right now, but it was a very different philosophy that was all about serving others. And many young people, college age, 17, 18-year olds and so forth, uh, they're excited about how college can be a stepping stone to a career. And they're looking forward, like you say, financially to making their mark. And certainly in our 20s, I think that in the United States, there is a great emphasis on performing and making money, and, hence investment. The return on your education is measured in the dollars earned. However, this particular college, the reason I bring it up is because it attracted young people with a different mindset. In fact, these were people who knew they wanted to be of service. Hence, the majority of majors that were offered in this college had to do with service. How can we make a mark and help society? Now, you again know, Hirsch, that I have a schema in which I label people with numbers based upon how many touch points before someone can make up their mind. And so the number 4 buyer is someone who needs 2, 3, at most 4 touch points in order to say yes or no and to make a decision and go forward. This is the person who wants to make an impact on the world. They are very focused on causes. What can they do to better society? They have big open hearts. They volunteer. They're very generous. If they don't have money, they're generous with their time. This is a person who wants to make a difference in the world and better society. So when you combine the number 8 buyer that we talked about as we started this program, who is thoughtful and, wants explanations and is interested in the value that she can provide, along with the person who wants to make the value focused on bettering society, that is our ideal client. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely would, and I'm heartened by the fact that we are not just attracting these people as our clientele, but that we are coming across people like this. If you're watching this and you resonate with this idea of return of impact, that somehow everything that you've been working on all this time has to amount to more than dollars and cents.
Yes.
Uh,
And I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna intrude to say something else that I think is important here, because this is the person who generates wonderful ideas. I'm going to use the word intellectual property, IP, okay? Because this person generates a lot of content, a lot of ideas, and often doesn't recognize or even realize that this IP needs to be protected, maybe even needs to be branded, right? Needs to have a life of its own, etc. Yesterday, I posted something for International Women's Day in Facebook. So those of you on LinkedIn, you didn't see the post, but it was about my mentor, Mary Peckus. Now, Mary Peckus started the Telemarketing Institute back in the 1960s, 70s, when, first of all, women owning a business was rare. Secondly, it was a virtual business. She did not have a brick and mortar store. These were people that worked from their homes. She employed 11 stay-at-home moms, and they did telemarketing services for Fortune 500 companies. So she was a pioneer for sure. She wrote several books, including 2 that became college textbooks for teaching how to do telemarketing. And if telemarketing did not have a bad rep that it has today,
right, right,
she would probably, because her principles, which she called conversational soft sell, are still relevant today. And it's about building relationships and making a connection. And again, it's about the impact that we have as people on each other.
I think that's a beautiful thought, but it also armed me with the idea, perhaps for next week's show, which would be that your personal brand is your IP. You know, we should post both articles, the one you referred to and the one that I wrote for my monthly newsletter last week, um, to lay the foundation for that
Okay.
conversation. But I love that. I love that idea, and I love that direction, because what we're really doing with our sales and messaging show is developing a community. We're laying the foundation for and attracting people toward a community that is essentially dedicated to return of impact. And so I'm very excited to be developing the show and the audience in that way.
That's great. So I think even though we might go a few more minutes, I'm going to end our program here. Return on impact. Does this resonate with you? I'd like to know in the comments, those of you who take a moment and watch, please let us know, what is the impact you're trying to make in society? I know it's more than simply making a good living for yourself and your family, although that's a noble cause, of course. But it's more than that. The person that we're talking to wants to go above and beyond and wants to see an impact in society and make changes that are long lasting. So,
It's wonderful.
to your sales success, to your sales and marketing messaging success. This is Dr. Nancy Zaire, Sales Whisperer.
And this is Hirsch Repun, your personal brand builder.